Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Updates. We've got some breaking news out of Gurnee, Illinois, where we have received what we believe to be the final teaser in this teaser campaign from Six Flags Great America for their brand new 2025 coaster. Is officially, I think it's a coaster at this point. Like, I think we're all assuming that. And they put out a teaser that has their logo with the little Beat the Beast slashes through it. You don't remember that? I have the magnet here. I beat the beast.
It sounds
Not
like
many,
exactly like
yep, not many people have that. But that's a really cool thing there.
or they're using royalty-free vector art just like us.
Oh, maybe that's what they're doing. Oh, sorry. So and then they have a bunch of words. So they have tease, demon, 7, steal, 5, drop, 2025. So those are the words they've given us, and they said they're going to make this announcement next week on the 15th of August. So we'll find out then officially. But where do you think this puts it? I think the 7 and the 5 are the most interesting pieces of this clue that we have.
Yeah, I mean,
Doesn't make
the
me
other,
excited, to be
yeah,
honest.
no, well, the most exciting thing would be an axis.
The most
Every,
exciting thing would be an
which,
Axis coaster.
which every new coaster is going to be until one is.
Until
Even
one is, as you've said,
just might be an
that's exactly.
axis.
That's the hill you're dying on here. Okay. So and we've been told that through the comments, we appreciate all the comments we get with all the stuff and through the readings that we do on different Facebook groups, that the eyes have had clues in them as well with the different symbols that might be SNS. So that gave me a little bit of hope that maybe this was an SNS coaster. A lot of people in the comments pointed to a tilt coaster, and we know Six Flags Mexico is getting a tilt coaster. That one was slated to go overseas. It was already purchased by a park. That deal fell through. Six Flags supposedly came in and bought it. I apologize if I get these minor details wrong. And that coaster is already sitting outside of Six Flags Mexico waiting to be built. So, but then supposedly at IAPA, Vekoma said that they sold 2, maybe another one to an American park. So there might not, I don't know if that's the one going into Dakota Land that they were counting, or if this is another tilt. This seems like a lot of tilt coasters. Um,
Yeah.
and Six Flags is known to do, big social media coasters, but that craze kind of died out years ago already. Like the tilt coaster craze, I was like, oh my God, look at the tilt coaster. Would you go on this? And that was almost years ago at this point. So I'd be confused as to
There's
why not.
none in North America that you can stand in front of and take pictures for Instagram. So
And
we
it's a cool thing. Like a tilt coaster and a Vekoma would fit nicely in that plot that we've talked about. Um, and then of course you have the elephant in the room, the dive coaster. I still contend. Some people said that it could fit there. I still contend that it would be a really tight fit, unless you expanded into the go-kart section, and maybe even took out Demon on top of that. They did mention Demon here, so I don't know if Demon is closing or if they're removing it. Because if you remove Demon, then the game changes completely. Like if you're taking Demon out, like we said before.
yeah,
Um,
Demon Defend the Plot is immense.
so the 7 and 5 would reference the 7 across trains for a dive coaster.
Probably.
How many cars does a Vekoma coaster have though? Does it have 7 cars?
Probably not. Probably 4 or 5. But I mean,
Does
there's a
like
5.
Let Coaster has 5 because 7's really long for a coaster nowadays, right?
I mean, for like something that's not a hypercoaster, yeah.
Yeah. What's the tilt coaster? I can just type in tilt coaster. There we go. Look at that. So Circuit Breaker at Codaland, it has 5 cars per train at
Well,
Codaland.
the 5 cars,
So
7 elements, but there,
5
there were
cars, 7 inversions, maybe.
there were some heavy B&M dive coaster rumors going, but because we weren't ready to take away the demon, I think we weren't really considering it. But now with this teaser, what do you think? Is it
This
just being held?
teaser kind of, I don't know, like, and then the word drop. So I feel like the drop is going to
Both,
be unique, which to
both of
me
those
screams,
options give you a unique drop. Yeah.
to me dive coaster or tilt coaster. But we also don't know what an Axis coaster's drop would look like,
I think it would probably look like a Joker kind of drop, like a Raven turn.
right? So like it doesn't really, and that's what a great teaser does is it doesn't give you the answer, but it makes you question everything you've thought about up to this point, you know. um
So if
and
it had five inversions, like we said on the other show, that would also claim a record. That would have the most inversions on a B&M dive coaster, which is its own record,
and it
probably.
seems like a lot of inversions to get out of a dive coaster too. So like I would be really interested to see what this layout looks like, because everyone's like going back and forth between, oh, it's going to be a mini dive coaster, oh, it's going to be a record breaking, giga dive coaster. I've heard a lot of different places. um I've
We
always
don't.
wondered why Cedar Point just didn't put Valraven up a few higher feet, to be honest with you. Like I think I might even asked Rob Decker, why didn't you just go an extra, what is it, 20 feet? What that they needed? Because what is Valraven the biggest one right now?
I think Yukon Striker is now the biggest one.
Oh, Yukon is? That probably makes more sense. So Valraven was, well, yeah, it'd be 75 feet. It was 223. And then um, Yukon Striker is 245. So to go, you'd have to go another 55 feet.
Yeah, but for
Well, the
Great America,
drop is 245. The height's only 223, which is interesting. No, it's another Orion problem. I'm not going to get into that tonight.
for for Great America, they could also be looking at steepness. It could be like 5 degrees past vertical, or maybe it's five-person trains and it's 7 degrees past vertical. Like there could be that could be a different way to look at it as well.
Or it's 5 cars per train and 7 inversions on a tilt coaster. Like, at this point, who the hell knows? Like, it's kind of funny that you have. So I think, me personally, okay. So instead of talking about what it could be, because we've listed almost everything that it could be at this point. Me
I think
personally,
so.
I don't want to see a dive coaster at this park. If you want a good dive coaster, drive 4.5 hours and go to Cedar Point and go on Valraven. Drive 8 hours and go to Canada's Wonderland and go on Yukon Striker. I feel like the dive coaster thing has been played out. And I know Great America is a very regional park that a lot of the people that go there only go to Great America. Dive coasters do provide you that midway wow factor. People love them. People line up to watch them at a lot of different parks. Um, you know, it's just one of those things. Like, me personally, I've been on enough dive coasters. I went on Iron Menace. I wasn't a huge, like, I thought it was a solid coaster, but nothing about Iron Menace wowed me in the least bit. So all these people saying, oh, the smaller dive coasters are better, they're all full of shit in my book. Valraven still is the best dive coaster I've ever been on. I haven't been on Yukon Striker yet. Sheikra is probably the second best in my opinion. So smaller to me is not better, but in any sense of the word. So to Unless you're going to build a giga dive coaster, which, cool. I do remember this conversation with Rob Decker now. So we were at the Valraven Media Day, and Rob Decker was talking to a group of people, and they're like, well, why why go the height that you went, was the question. And he's like, well, and what's going to make this ride better than, say, a Shikra or a Griffin, or the dive coasters that were already out there. So he basically said, well, you're putting those feet right in the best part of the ride, that the whole point of the dive coaster is the dive. So you're adding all those extra feet right there in its signature element. And that's what makes Valraven better, is that you add in those extra feet on the only part of the ride that matters. Because the rest of the ride, for the most part, has always been kind of throwaway. After the dive, it's kind of like, okay, I'm just doing stuff. Although there's some few fun things here and there on Shikra and Valraven, and all of them have a few, oh, that's a cool thing that it does. But he's like, you're adding the feet right where it needs to be, was his point. So if you did a giga dive, you'd be adding that 50 feet right where you needed to do. I just don't see them doing a giga dive, Jeff. I don't see it happening. What do you think?
Now, I think we're probably looking at like 160, 150, maybe 170 if you're lucky. And I think we'll be riding a B&M dive coaster next fall, next spring.
I don't know. I'm still holding out hope. I think they're trolling us. I think they know what everyone's saying. And I
Because
think
it's
they picked the words specifically to make people think it's a B&M dive coaster, and we're going to get
an axis.
an access coaster. We're going to get an access coaster, or at least a tilt coaster, which I'm totally cool with the tilt coaster too, because Vekoma does some amazing stuff. So I would love to see what Vekoma does with that space. We didn't really talk about that possibility in the last show because I just assumed, well, Mexico's getting theirs. Would you put two tilt coasters in the same year?
If you're Six Flags, you would, but we'll be riding a B&M dive coaster.
Well, hopefully we're riding a tilt coaster because I'd love that. A good Vekoma inside Great America would make that park real nice. Um, yeah, but we might be riding a dive coaster, so we'll see. Which will be cool because it'll give it like I'll finally because it's funny because whenever I talk to my students, I talk about Valraven, I show them the RPOVs, and I say, "Oh, it's a dive coaster." I have to explain what that means, and it's hard for them to conceptualize what that means because you don't see it. It's a very weird looking coaster that just falls off a cliff, you know. So then they'll finally understand, and I can say, "Oh, well, we can go on a better one, 4 hours that way."
Just like that one. Okay.
Actually, you can go on better everything 4 hours that way. So just keep driving. So anyway, we will find out on the 15th of August what they are getting. I do love, though, I will say this before we leave.
Yeah.
I do love that Six Flags is putting in some big coasters again, and that we're talking about some really good coasters. Magic Mountain started teasing some stuff, and we got rumblings now at Six Flags New England. We got no Six Flags Mexico's getting something. So I love that we're back in. I feel that we're out of
Somebody told them that they had a credit card that they didn't have to pay for anymore.
right. And somebody finally said, you know what? Enough with these family coasters. Let's put in some real coasters. Enough
Except
with the family
for New
coaster.
England.
No, except for them. They didn't get the memo. They're a little bit slower up there in New England, right?
Right? It's supposed to be like a family speed, I imagine.
Yeah. So,
Medium.
so, so anyway, thanks for joining us here. We'll let you guys know next week what's going on at Great America. Well, I'm pretty excited to see the new tilt coaster that's put in there, or Vekoma, or Axis Coaster. No, we're going with Axis Coaster. I'm excited to see the new Axis Coaster and what that can do. So as always, I am Andy Robarchuk from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman on Long Island, New York.
Anything but a dive coaster. Right on my words.
It's a dive coaster.
Oh God.